Kim here, Director of Communications for the Arizona Senate Republicans, and joining me today is Senator Paul Boyer of District 20. And we're talking about school board associations. There's been a big movement across the country and within the state of Arizona with parents that are fed up with a lot of these groups. And something big happened last week. But let's start with the background. What's kind of spurred all the anger from a lot of families and parents?
Well, here in Arizona, parents are upset because they want to be able to go to their school board and know that they can use their First Amendment right to just criticize whatever their respective school board is doing. Mm-hmm. Last year, the National School Board Association, they coordinated with White House staffers, so this is President Biden's own staffers, to issue a letter declaring parents were domestic terrorists. And it wasn't just rhetoric, it was worse than that. It was asking the President of the United States to invoke the Patriot Act against parents, the full forces of the FBI, to invoke federal hate crime legislation against parents for the sole reason of criticizing their local school boards. I mean, it's crazy.
And this came at a time when parents were fed up with mask mandates, school closures, school boards and entities telling them how to educate their own children. So we've seen a lot of backlash from this.
That's right. And in addition to that, I mean, parents are upset about certain textbooks that are in libraries. I mean, let kids be kids. You know, we shouldn't have to hypersexualize children and expose them to sex acts. And that some parents, that's what they were concerned about, in addition to, COVID closures, mask mandates, and so forth. And they should have the right under the First Amendment, under the U.S. Constitution, to talk to governing board members who are elected officials to say, hey, I'm concerned about my students' education, and I have a right to know what's going on in the classroom and also what's happening in the libraries.
So the National School Board Association feeling a lot of heat, and the Arizona School Board Association was connected to the National School Board Association. Tell us about that.
They spend millions of dollars every single year on dues. So these are taxpayer dollars from Arizona that's going to a National School Board Association that's, again, not only likening parents to domestic terrorists, but trying to invoke the full force of the federal government against parents for just having the temerity to even defend their children.
Mm-hmm. This angered not only parents, but also some legislators here within the Senate. And so there was some bills that were drafted kind of addressing this, but something big happened last week. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Arizona School Board Association notified the National School Board Association that they were pulling out, that they were no longer paying dues, and that they were no longer sending their officials to the National School Board meetings. They're no longer doing any kind of, essentially they dissociated themselves with the National School Board Association.
How are you feeling about this, being a teacher yourself?
Pretty darn good, and really feeling really good for Arizona parents. Because think about it, I mean, just that chilling effect of not being able, having the freedom to go to your own school board to raise legitimate issues with governing board members about the type of education or lack thereof that your own child is getting.
What do you think, what sort of message do you think this sends?
I think it's a great message, and I think it should have been done a long time ago, and it shouldn't have been a threat of legislation from certain senators and probably House members as well. Mm-hmm. It should have been a, hey, that was ridiculous. That was heinous. I mean, that was beyond ridiculous. That is something that should never be done. We shouldn't invoke the full federal government, domestic terrorist powers against parents for raising legitimate issues. And so that shouldn't have even been a consideration. It shouldn't have been a, hey, well, we need to think about it. No, you don't think about that. You just cut yourself off entirely from them. It's sad that it took them so long, but I'm grateful that they finally did. It's
crazy that a lot of politics are spilling into our school board associations and our school boards in general. This isn't what parents want their kids to have to deal with.
Yeah, that's right. And so thankfully in Arizona, I talked to a lot of legislators across the country, talked to a representative last week from Texas. They don't really have a whole lot of school choice options. Mm-hmm. We do in Arizona, thankfully. And so when parents do find out about what's some of this ridiculousness that's happening in their respective schools, at least they have options here in Arizona.
And some of your legislation went through the third read, passed, was transmitted to the House, all having to do with ESAs and school choice. Senator Leach was singing your praises about some of these bills, just broadening those that can actually take part in these programs.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's so important. And it's not every kid is going to take us up on it, but for the kids that do, I mean, it's life-changing for them. In some cases, it's really a lifesaver, because there are some districts that you've seen generational failure. You've seen it failing current students, their parents, their grandparents, and just giving them the opportunity at a quality education. I mean, this really will make the world a difference for them.
Well, education impacts everyone, whether you have children or not. It impacts our workforce, our economy, our state in general. So we appreciate you having this conversation with us.
Thank
you for joining us today.
Absolutely.